Hello, welcome to GM Chacha TV. Should women drop their maiden name in favor of their husband's name? Should women drop their family name as they assume their husband's name? The answer to this question may vary from person to person depending on the age, for example. To those who were born in the 40s, in the 50s, maybe in the 60s, 70s, possibly they will say or they will agree that women should drop their maiden name in favor of their husband's name. Why? Because people born during that time, during the time that I have mentioned, are relatively conservative. They are traditional. They live at a time when in a marriage or after marriage, a woman entirely belonged to the husband. The measure of submission, respect, and durability or stability of a marriage depended so much if the woman accepted to be assimilated, to be consumed by the husband. During that time, the yesteryears, in the 70s, in the 80s maybe, possibly to the 90s, thereabout, women getting married had to take their husband names. So that you find a woman who was getting married in those years gone by, they will even go to the extent of acquiring new identity cards which bore the names of their husbands. We have women who could be having two identity cards, and it meant so much for a woman to bear the name of her husband, to the extent that at her place of work she would prefer to be referred by the name of her husband, Mrs. So-and-so, the name of the husband. It could be even in a teaching profession, medical profession, doctor. You find somebody being called Dr. Otieno, but in the actual sense, Otieno is her husband. Therefore, the idea of a woman taking up her husband's name depends on the era, depends on the age of this woman. Taking up the name of the husband also gave a certain sense of satisfaction to the man, a certain sense of pride where a man felt, yes, I own this woman. Yes, I'm in control. I am the boss. I am the controller. And therefore, it gave the man that rare, that unique kind of feeling in him that he is above. He is the one in charge. Therefore, a woman taking up the husband's name meant a lot, both to the man and to the woman. The woman was kind of set apart. She was kind of isolated, or rather kind of basically set apart as a married woman, meaning that she is not a loose woman, she is not a single woman, and therefore people kind of gave respect to a woman who bore the name of her husband. Therefore, women were kind of guided to accepting the man's or the husband's name. But what about the modern generation? The modern generation is slightly different, where by the time this woman finishes university, she already has an identity card, and therefore the identity card bears the name of her father, meaning that if she is Miriam Onyango, then it means that Miriam is the daughter of Onyango, and therefore the identity card has the father's name, and it will be difficult to include her husband's name in the identity card. But then as she goes along her path of career, her path of profession, she ends up transforming from M.S. Onyango to Mrs. Mwita, meaning that she has now been married to Mwita, and therefore she has transformed, she has changed. There are those ladies who still feel it is important to bear the name of their husband, but there are those who feel like bearing the name of the husband kind of diminishes their value, changes their identity. It kind of stops them from being themselves. Some women want to be themselves. They want to be themselves even beyond the marriage, beyond the relationship. So should women drop their maiden name, their family name, in favor of their husband's name? The answer to this question will depend, or it will vary from person to person depending on from what angle you are viewing it. Hearing the husband's name comes with its own price. It has a cost, and most especially in this era where marriage breakup are on the increase, divorces are on the increase. What will happen to a woman who had assumed, who had dropped her family name, who had dropped her father's name and assumed her husband's name, and then 5, 6, 7 years down the line, the marriage breaks up? I just request you to subscribe to this channel, click the bell, click the like. Everything has its own merits and demerits. Challenges of a woman dropping her maiden name, her family name in favor of her husband's name are quite heavy, and they come when the marriage has broken. A good case study is those media personalities. We know of certain media personalities, and I will not mention names. Those public figures, those women who are public figures, women who are socialites, women who are real public figure, and at some point their marriage has broken and they have found themselves in a very difficult situation where they have to delete their husband's name, where they have to change, reverting back to what they initially were, meaning that they are going back to the factory setting. And when a woman is going back to factory settings, there are a lot of challenges, and maybe we should really examine what exactly entails for a woman to go back to her original factory setting. There will be a lot of documents. I mean, the process of having to clear your ex-husband's name from your documents, it is a lengthy process. You will need to kind of apply with the registrar of persons. You have to apply stating the reason why you want to change your name, why you want to omit, to delete a certain name from your current identity. You will need to furnish the registrar of persons with a marriage certificate. We'll need to furnish the registrar of person with a divorce certificate, with some deeds, with your photocopy, with a copy of your birth certificate, with a copy of your identity card. There will be so many copies that you will file. There will be affidavits to be deposited. It is not a 1 week process. It is not a 1 month process. It can take a very long time for a woman to go back to her factory setting. But we ask, should a woman drop her maiden name, her family name in favor of her husband's name? Well, the answer solely depends on the individual. But in my opinion, the demerit of dropping the maiden name in favor of the husband's name seem to outweigh the merits. If my daughter was to get married, my advice would be, keep my name, keep my family name, keep your family name. Let the men also bear in mind that for a woman to use a man's name, it is not a measure of submission, it is not a measure of love, it is not a measure of how long the marriage is going to last. It is a complication for a later date.